Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, mischief and mayhem. Also, the V-Team takes a look back at boobs, rubes, and stooges. And from all of us here, a very Happy New Year. Now, let's look back at 2018, the year that was. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and each week we try to bring you the news of state politics that you need to make informed decisions. Today is our New Year's special. We're going to look back at the highlights and the lowlights that dotted the landscape of 2018. Our mission here at The Voice of Alabama Politics is very simple: to inform, educate, and sometimes alert you, our viewers, to what is really going on with state government. Join me now as we look back at some of the highlights of 2018.
You know, Jack, this was not supposed to be a controversial a session, but lo and behold, Matt Hart threw 2 or 3 bombs into the State House. One, when they started subpoenaing people who had used credit cards in their campaign finance reports. I mean,
well, I think everybody that filed a campaign finance report who put on there a payment out of their campaign to a credit card company were supposed to itemize those expenses. John Merrill, I think, went back and warned them, hey guys, all you're reporting is a check to MasterCard, but I need to know what that check covered, what items you bought, because some of them were probably, buying football tickets and going to games and things like that. And
Josh, we've been writing about Steve Marshall and how he failed to prosecute an assistant district attorney in Marshall County when he was district attorney there for sexually assaulting a woman. There was no doubt in the judge's mind that he had sexually assaulted her, but they got by on a technicality. He went and talked with a reporter from AL.com this past week, and he kind of told some different stories, didn't he?
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of excuse fest he went through there. And,
at 4 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah, and he laid out some pretty big ones, and some of them he directly contradicted his testimony under oath, and some other ones just didn't really make a whole lot of sense, such as, when you say, well, we didn't know what to do, I just came in, I'd just been hired. And so we went to the AG's office and we let them take a look at it, and we just followed. To believe that, first of all, this would have to have happened in like a Pizza Hut, all right? This is the district attorney's office, all right? This is the district attorney's office.
One was assaulted in his office.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that they've handled assault cases in the Marshall County District Attorney's office before. If they haven't, God bless you in Marshall County.
The leadership, the Republican Party leadership, Beth, said that this would be a quiet session, no controversy, and yet they have come out with at least 2 bills to undermine the state ethics laws that they championed just 7 short years ago.
Yeah, we all know these ethics laws need clarification. There are some things we need to do with it. But the way that they're coming at this is basically saying, okay, well, let's let some of these people do things that were otherwise unethical, and let's let some of these people do things. And I think there's a bill up to take teachers out from under the ethics laws, and I think that's fine. But some of this economic development stuff that's going on, it screams Mike Hubbard type shenanigans.
I mean, this group of people that sit on the Ethics Commission right now some of them have the moral values of a Bangkok brothel owner, and they'll bend the rule. I don't even know why we need the ethics laws interpreted.
Well, what's supposed to happen is that I'm a lawmaker and I want to enter into an activity of something. I write a letter to the Ethics Commission, which is public record. They review it and say, they write you a letter back saying, not a good idea, or yeah, we give you the green light. Now they're trying to do it behind closed doors,
Right.
where it'll never see the light of day. God only knows what will happen to us then.
You were sexually harassed as a young female.
And as were some of my other coworkers.
I mean, how does Steve Marshall look the people of Alabama in the eye and tell them that he's the top cop in this city?
Well, because his whole answer to it was, well, we didn't have a manual, we didn't know what to do. And as Josh has brought up many times, if that was a man, they'd know the definition of assault in that instance. Yeah. It'd be pretty clear.
Yeah.
See, this is why Steve Marshall doesn't like you.
Well, Steve, if I thought you and I weren't going to be friends, I don't know if I could bear it. Why? I mean, Kay Ivey is popular. She's doing a good job. Why in the world would Senator Bill Hightower, Evangelist Scott Dawson, and Mayor Battle, Tommy Battle out of Huntsville, and then Michael McAllister, nobody knows, why are they running against her? She's running as an incumbent, and she's very, very popular.
I think really at this point, these guys are just trying to get their statewide name ID out there in anticipation of another race, because at this point, unless she has a major health crisis, she's probably going to be our next governor.
Yeah, I mean, she is our governor now, and Josh, as we've said plenty of times, best way to stay governor of Alabama is not get indicted and don't do anything stupid. And she's not done either one of those.
No, she's really not done anything. And you can criticize that, but it's really kind of hard to criticize nothing. I mean, it really is.
We got another bill here that sponsored by Trip Pittman and Richie Wingo that would allow them to keep secret, Jack, any opinions that the Ethics Commission gives them. Now they've got a sub on it to change all that. But you know what? These secret opinions that they give now, I mean, they don't hold the weight of law, but they end up being the same thing as a get out of jail free card.
I know, it's ridiculous. We are supposed to operate in the sunshine.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be transparency in government.
Yes.
But these guys, if they didn't learn anything from the Mike Hubbard trial, they better learn that they could be next.
Yeah.
We love ethics reform, and it seems like over at the State House, Susan, they just soon shoot it in its cradle.
I tell you what, they love it to death. They absolutely love it to death. So much so that they did the one thing that Luther Strange did not want to do with this ethics bill, and that's assign it to a committee. I think Luther's words were, over my dead body. But you know what, Steve Marshall doesn't have that kind of pull with the legislature.
I mean, Jonathan, they hold a press conference. Senator Marsh bravely introduced a really great bill one Thursday. The next Thursday, we hadn't heard anything, and then by the following Thursday, it was dead.
Well, we talked about it on our show, and y'all seemed somewhat excited that you thought it was actually going to have teeth, and you had said, I'm predicting that this is going to see some sunshine and then it's going to die. You actually said that. And I think what we're looking at here is re-election stint, if you ask me. We're putting out a tough ethics bill. We're going to have the toughest right now, and then it dies off. So people hear a little bit about it, and then it dies off.
Amazingly, Mike Hubbard's on vacation. He's up at Wrigley Field in Chicago having a big time. Not even sweating going to jail.
No, as long as the Criminal Court of Appeals keeps dragging their feet, he can go on as many vacations as he likes, apparently.
I mean, you saw that picture, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, how does a guy convicted of 12 felonies remain on the loose? Well, you remember what they did to Don Siegelman. I mean,
oh gosh,
crazy.
They shackled him in the courtroom and scurried him off. And Mike Hubbard, that's what I was thinking. Maybe I could, get convicted on some ethics violations and get some good vacations out of it.
Did they, Chip? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know about that.
Well, it's working so great for Mike.
It is working for Mike.
It really is, but let's think about it. I mean, this stuff was filed in October 2016. It's been a year and a half since the first since the appeal was filed. It's been almost a year since the first briefs were filed. There's no, I don't know the exact number, but there's been several other appeals cases, death penalty appeals cases that have been ruled on that were filed after his appeal.
You're watching The V, the 2018 Look Back. We'll be right back with more for the year that was.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state. From convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
Two-thirds of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. As you probably noticed over the years, we don't really care who we offend or whose ox is gored. What we look for is the truth. What is the real story behind what is happening in Alabama politics? Let's look back at another segment from 2018, the year that was.
You know, this week, as to quote Chevy Chase, when they handed down the Bentley verdict chip, I couldn't have been more amazed if I'd woke up with my head stapled to the carpet. I mean, they just said if you're governor, you can use law enforcement to threaten people, to intimidate, to investigate, to threaten your own family, and that's okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they said. Couldn't prosecute Dr. Bentley because it's not in the ethics law. It doesn't cover non-spousal relationships, apparently. If you appoint the ALEA secretary, you can do whatever you want with them, tell them to investigate whoever. And
you can get a 501c4, pay your girlfriend to be your assistant. Yeah.
So you can get a hoe and install her in, I mean, theoretically, get a hoe, install her in the governor's office and pay her out of some Hoochie Mama secret fund, and that's cool, Josh.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're not talking about the garden instrument there.
We were looking for why Robert Bentley appointed Steve Marshall Attorney General. You were at the archives, the Alabama archives, and you found what appeared to be the first in a long series of information that we discovered that tells us exactly why Robert Bentley wanted Steve Marshall.
Yeah, and heads up Steve Marshall, this segment's going to sting a little bit. So apparently when Steve Marshall was the DA in Marshall County, he was the recipient, according to several sources that we talked to, he was approached by Bentley or some of Bentley's affiliates here and asked if he would be willing to accept the AG's position in exchange for going after the prosecutors in the AG's office who were investigating Mike Hubbard and who were on the trail of Robert Bentley and Rebecca Mason and the misspent money and things of that nature.
It goes like that ABC Sports thing, you know, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
I felt like the only thing that was absolutely missing on Tuesday night was any type of change. Yeah. There, Josh, it looked like we just elected the same old folks again, and nothing really new was out there.
Yeah, I think I kind of felt like the skier at the ABC thing, you know, the guy after it was over.
The guy doing this at the end.
Yeah, but in different directions. But yeah, I think you're right to an extent. There were some positives that came out of it. I thought some folks who really needed to lose lost, but you know, we are a Republican state, so I very rarely get my way. So you know, that's how it works.
Well, I mean,
Susan, to accept it.
Susan, there was, there was some. Kay Ivey won without a runoff. That was a big deal. I know, and then there's a runoff in the lieutenant governors. There's a runoff in the rest of them. But we had a sad tragedy last Sunday when Attorney General Steve Marshall's wife took her own life. It was a very sad thing. We all reported on it in some variation. We were very, very careful, Susan. Very careful how we reported on this tragic loss. She's a mother of a daughter who's 22, getting married soon. Steve Marshall decided to have a press conference in which he publicly talked about some of the more tragic details of her life and death, and did blame the media for its reporting. And I did not see any unfair reporting, but the takeaway from that is still in mixed reviews.
It is, and Josh Moon had a really interesting article about that came out on, I think, Thursday of this week, saying what a difficult position as a media person it puts us all in. Most of us knew all the details about Mrs. Marshall's death by noon on Sunday. And there's a really delicate balance where you owe it to your readers, especially because this is a public official, to let them know something, a little bit about what happened. But your responsibility is not to give all the graphic details, which nobody did, because you want to respect the family, you want to respect, their privacy, but still, again, there's a delicate balance there of what you have to report to your readers.
Charlie, I know that you were not on last week and you did not get to add your 2 cents to the fact that, as I put it this week, BCA took out the garbage.
This was the cherry on top of my year. You do not know how happy I am that man is finally gone. I am so excited, and I specifically wanted to come on the show this week just to say that. So thank you.
You want to blow him a kiss goodbye?
Farewell.
That's
harsh.
That's almost mean, isn't it,
Yeah,
Jack?
it's not
Crazy
almost.
right, of course.
Well, Billy Canary, he confronted her one time.
He did.
And she didn't like that very much.
It didn't go very well, I might say.
Will Ainsworth, I guess surprisingly so, beat the establishment. I mean, listen, I like both of them, but Twinkle saying she was an outsider, Jack, was a little outside of the certitude of knowledge.
Did she call herself an outsider?
Yes, she did.
He called himself an outsider.
She called herself an outsider.
I could get behind Will saying he was an outsider, but I mean, when Twinkle says she's an outsider on that.
If she said that, that's just simply untrue, right?
And as you said earlier, he's an outsider.
Yeah, trying to be an insider.
Attorney General Steve Marshall spent $735,000 of funds received from the Republican Attorney General's Association that some believe violates the PAC-to-PAC transfer law of our Fair Campaign Practice Act. Yeah. I, for one, think it violates the law. I think we need to close that door. Steve Marshall says there's a loophole. There are smart lawyers that are figuring out how to do with this on the Republican and Democratic side, Josh.
Yeah, it definitely violates Alabama law. Okay, there's no doubt that Alabama law prohibits PAC-to-PAC transfers, and so the loophole here for them, obviously, is that this is a federal PAC, and federal PACs don't have that standard there. They don't have that. They don't make that illegal to transfer PAC-to-PAC.
It was this week, long-awaited, finally the Court of Criminal Appeals, or as I like to call them, the Criminal Court of Appeals, after nearly 2 years, ruled on Mike Hubbard's conviction. Give us an overview of what happened.
So they upheld 11 of the 12 counts that he was found guilty of. There was one count that they overturned, count 5. But what I think we should take away from this, first off, is that they went through and the Court of Criminal Appeals picked apart a lot of the stuff that Hubbard's defense attorneys have been saying over the past 2 years and even before that.
The Business Council of Alabama, the executive committee there, the 12-man and woman executive committee, voted unanimously to recommend Katie Britt as the new head of BCA. Katie Britt being Senator Richard Shelby's chief of staff and a young woman, under 40, very talented, but it was a really unusual or a bold pick.
Bold, yeah. I think she's got great credentials. She doesn't fit the mold of Bill O'Connor and Wynton Blunt and some of the people who've been chairs and CEOs in times past. But I think it's a very interesting move. I think it breathes some new life into BCA. Katie has got a great reputation. She's universally liked as far as I know. Yeah. I think it's a good choice. It's an interesting choice.
The election, Jack, is in the rearview mirror, and Kay Ivey won a stunning victory.
She certainly did. And any delusions that Democrats had of winning any statewide office were put to rest.
It didn't take Steve Marshall, the Attorney General of Alabama, Steve Marshall, long to be able to say to his largest campaign donors, promises made, promises kept. This past Monday, Josh, Matt Hart was fired from the Special Prosecution Unit, and it was a dark day for Alabama, and I don't know that people know how dark it really is going forward.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that a lot of people see the headlines and they don't really understand exactly how the sausage gets made in a lot of these public corruption cases. And really at this point in time in this state, Matt Hart and that public corruptions unit there at the AG's office was the one guy kind of pushing a lot of things.
And the Ethics Commission, I have never seen the likes of these people. They operate in the shadows. This week, Beth, just in honor of you coming back, they voted 3-2 to say that Steve Marshall did not violate any campaign finance laws when he accepted $735,000 in illegal contributions from the Republican Attorneys General's Association. They said that there wasn't enough evidence to show that he had done anything wrong.
Right, I don't know what other evidence they want, because there's the checks coming in, and there's the fact they're coming from a federal PAC. And I know there's some confusion about whether or not federal PACs are subject to the Fair Campaign Practices Act. But looking at this, I mean, what do you mean there's not enough evidence? He took the money, it's there, he reported it. I don't understand what they need.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with another look at 2018.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation. 2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, sometimes we make you laugh. Sometimes we make you mad. But we hope to always make you think. But let's look back at some of those times we made you laugh and maybe even made you think.
Matt Hart's back in the grand jury. He's got a few questions.
You gotta ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
So do you, punk? 2018 legislative session is ready for liftoff. Jack, I know you like this deal. The Senate is has put forward a resolution, or is putting forward a resolution to commit a felony. What's the legislature's position on ethics reform?
What's it gonna resist temptation? There'll always be more.
Oh, I see. Their position is the same as the Bangkok brothel owners. Oh, well, those ethics laws, what were we thinking? Well, this is Happy Baby Month.
This is Happy Baby Month.
Our Chandler Hines is just a few short 20-some-odd days away from delivery.
Yes, and Steph is a week and a half behind her.
Right, yep.
Well, Jack.
And I'm March 3rd.
I have no idea what that means. Wow.
Isn't that tacky?
That looked beautiful. You set it right on the table.
What was that for?
Oh, it's fantasy football. It's very athletic.
Attorney General Steve Marshall makes a crooked deal.
Say, I haven't seen a house out here for miles. What are you doing out in the middle of nowhere?
Well, I had to be at that there crossroads last midnight. Sell my soul to the devil.
It's 9 days to the runoffs.
Now look, let's be sensible about this thing. There's money in this for all of us, right? There's enough for you, there's enough for you, and for me, and for you, and there's enough for
Alabama style, baby. Every man and woman for themselves. Well, I'm here. Where's everybody else? Jonathan? Welcome to our new set. That particleization reconfiguration is amazing.
Oh, and it tingles.
Attorney General Steve Marshall had a staff meeting last week in which he now feels that he has identified the Antichrist.
Yeah, it's you.
It's me.
It's you and Josh Moon, apparently.
You can have two Antichrists.
Well, it's split personality, I would suppose.
It looks like to me, New Bentley, that's as close to the Antichrist as he can come, I thought. But now it turns out.
Right.
In 2018, we lost some very good people in Alabama politics. They will be missed. But before we look back on those fine souls, let me say to you, Happy New Year from all of us at the V. You watch us because we watch them.
Milton McGregor was a man who was both loved, revered, and feared. I think to most of us here, we knew the man much better than we knew the Politico.
Yeah.
But he will be remembered by us today. He supported Republicans, he supported Democrats, he supported the poor, the rich, the white, black, Hispanic. When it came to who you were, Milton McGregor just wanted to know, what can I do for you and what can you do for the state?
And whether it was the most powerful person in the state or whether it was a janitor working at his casino, he treated everyone exactly the same. There's no difference.
And John Ed Matheson was right at his funeral the other day when he said Milton McGregor has done more for race relations in this state than probably any other person.
Well, he would call me almost every Sunday and he said, you laid it on him this week, big boy. Miss McGregor, I hope we laid it on him this week.